Welcome in, Big Blue Nation. As promised, we have a full episode here of Jacob and I talking about John Calipari's return to Rupp Arena on February 1st. Had this circled for months and months before the season started. Jacob, how much crap did we have to listen from national media, Arkansas fans, the Cal loyalists, Seth Greenberg? I mean, the names go on and on. We've had to hear it for so long. How excited are you that February 1st is finally here?
Oh man, I'm excited. You said for months. I would say all the way back to last April when he took the job. They were going to bring him into Rupp Arena, and I can't wait for Saturday. But I mean, to your point, the amount of you know talking that Arkansas fans in particular did, and now you kind of see them all start to back off and accept maybe the cold hard truth that Kentucky fans might have been right. We've seen this for the last 5 years, so I can't wait for Saturday at 9 p.m. It can't come soon enough for me.
Yeah, I've seen so many polls out there about who's going to boo, who's going to sit and do nothing, who's going to
Oh,
clap. I will be in attendance for that game. My wallet just took a huge hit. Just took a huge hit.
tickets ain't cheap.
Trust me. I tell you what, there will be a time where I cheer for John Calipari. He gave us plenty of great years. We're going to dive into that a little bit later on the podcast. This Saturday is not one of those times where I'm going to welcome him back. I will be firmly on the boo train. I got a ticket for me and my dad to go. He told me he's probably just going to be at the sit and just not do anything. Unfortunately, I don't agree with his take. Like many of times when my dad and I talk college basketball, don't agree on much. But Jacob, where are you leaning at on Saturday?
I'm 100% on the boo train. I don't get the people that say they're gonna cheer. It doesn't make any sense, man. The guy we'll dive into throughout this podcast, but all that led up to him becoming the Arkansas coach, and just the way, especially the last 5 years have gone. Again, John Calipari was not fired from Kentucky, and Arkansas was the only place he could wind up. He left us, he was looking really to get more money, and was hoping Kentucky would give him a pay raise, and Barnhart called his bluff. But regardless, Cal did this to himself. He took shots at the fans over the last 5 years, plenty of them, and I can't see cheering for him. I understand people that are not going to boo him and they're just going to sit there quietly. But, I mean, at the end of the day, the guy is the Arkansas head coach. He's coming in as one of our bigger SEC rivals. I don't care who it is over on that sideline. We cannot be cheering for him and giving him a standing O as Coach Pitino requested. So he's got to get booed or silent treatment, and those are the only two options in my opinion.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that Coach Pitino news just a little bit before we, skate by it.
Yeah.
It was only, 3-4 months ago when Coach P was coming back, and we weren't sure what his reaction was going to be with the fans. I think he's getting a little ahead of his skates, as the people would say. You don't have that much pull with this Kentucky fan base yet again. You still are an active coach at St. John's. You did get a very nice welcome at Big Blue Madness. But I think you are overreaching when you're trying to tell Kentucky fans how to react. Because obviously, the older videos have surfaced of when Coach Pitino came back from, when he got fired from Boston, lands with Louisville. Obviously, Louisville is a little bit more of a rival, but Arkansas is right up there, man. This isn't this isn't Vanderbilt. This isn't, Ole Miss. This is somebody we've had history with, especially back in the 90s. I think Coach Pitino is, overstepping his welcome just a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, him, and there's plenty of national media, and then also, I mean, there's the media in Kentucky that's doing the same thing. I've never seen people be so worried about the feelings of a man that makes $7 million than I have on Twitter the last few days.
No crying on the yacht.
Like, exactly. You make $7 million for 5 years, a contract that you signed when you were still the coach of Kentucky. If Cal wanted to be here this year, he could have still been here. They weren't going to fire him. And now, everybody's coming out, and Pitino, I mean, I get it. It sucked. Pitino hated being away from here. But you know what, Rick? You did that to yourself as well. After you left the NBA, you had the offer to go coach Michigan. You turned it down. You wanted to coach in the in-state biggest rival, and you wanted to try to be bigger than Kentucky. And it didn't work, and you got booed, and you got your ass kicked by Cal for 10 years while you were there, and now, excuse me, but now like Cal's getting the same thing. Like they chose this again. Guy makes $7 million a year. I've never heard so many people be so worried about someone's emotions, especially a guy that gets paid that much money. It's absurd.
Yeah, it's very wild. Everybody. I mean, think about like Coach Stoops right now. They
Yeah.
want him. They want him gone. Same thing. Their tenure is almost the exact same thing. Obviously, Calipari hit higher highs than Stoops has. It's a little bit easier when you're working with Kentucky basketball as opposed to Kentucky football. But nobody's giving Stoops that credit right now to no crying on the yacht, as the phrase goes. I don't know why fans are feeling so empathetic for John Calipari. I mean, just think about his tenure at Kentucky. Great, great coach, great recruiter. But after every single upgrade of a season he had, he was going straight to Mitch Barnhart saying, hey, man, this UCLA job's open. I think they're going to offer me this much money. Any and every time there was a pay raise available and he could kind of, stick the knife into Mitch Barnhart a little bit deeper, he did. He tried to do that again this offseason, and look how it worked. I mean, I couldn't imagine the stones on this guy after losing to Texas A&M in the SEC tournament and then to Oakland and then going up to the AD who already doesn't like you, personal reasons, and saying, hey, man, I need a raise. Well, I mean, you're a Twitter guy here on this podcast. You were following along with that whole charade going on. I remember you texted me, what do you make of this Calipari to Arkansas news?
I was on a cruise, barely looking at my phone, and
I hadn't seen anything. I don't have a Twitter. I don't check it. And I was just sitting there, I'm like, what are you talking about? And then all of a sudden, it starts flooding in. They have that meeting. What was that, on like Monday, where Barnhart and Calipari reaffirmed they're going to be here. And then within 24 hours, he's the head coach and getting introduced at Arkansas.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I'm gonna rant here for a minute. So if I start to go a little long, you just cut me off. But let's just back it up 5 years, right? Let's go back to right after the tournament gets canceled in COVID. John Calipari was not the same person he was 6 years prior to that. At that point, the year after COVID, you go 9-16, you miss the tournament. You follow that up with the next year. You lose to St. Peter's in the first round with the National Player of the Year. The following year, you bring back the National Player of the Year, and you have a disappointing season. You're a 6th seed, and you get bounced by a pretty mediocre Kansas State team, even though that they found their way to the Elite Eight. I mean, Kansas State's still living off that one Elite Eight run here these years later. And you follow that up with then probably one of your more talented teams, at least in the last 6 years, maybe as your time as head coach. And all you do is bicker with the fans and the AD, and you cut off every booster around the program. And it truly transcends to Cal University at that point. You hire the worst staff in America. You get out everybody that knows anything about basketball. You hire your friends that care more about going to a steakhouse than they do game planning for an Oakland game in the NCAA tournament. You got all of these factors. You almost wanted the fans' favorite players to fail, going all the way back to Dante Allen. Dante would come in and have 20-something against Mississippi State. Cal gets into the press conference and, well, he got beat on defense. Did you guys see that? Oh, you guys don't pay attention to that because you don't know basketball well enough. And the basketball Benny comments, the Rob and Reed, you had a uber talented team last year, and you decided to not play the kids that would give that team a chance to succeed in March. Let's go into March. Then we get into March all season. We're built for March. We're built for March. We're built for March. None of this matters. We're built for March. Lose to A&M on Friday in the SEC tournament. Get bounced by Jack Golke in Oakland in the NCAA tournament as a 3 seed. Then you come out and you say some of the most ludicrous comments after the game. Oh, it's really unfortunate that our season's defined by one game. You built it to that point, Cal. This was your bed. All right. Then to your point, then you get to the off season. He forces Mitch Barnhart to sit there and look like a hostage in a video while he's telling everybody that their bond's great and Cal's going to be back. You go through all this, and Mitch puts his neck out there. The whole fan base wanted, not the whole fan base, but majority of the fan base wanted him gone. They found the money to buy him out. Mitch comes out, sticks his neck out on the line, keeps him. And then you go talk to Arkansas behind the back, and then you're like almost shocked when Kentucky's not bending over backwards for you. That's the last 5 years. And now we're expected to go out there and give this guy a standing ovation when he comes into Rupp. Like, to your point, it'll come one day. Saturday's not the day. And Saturday is for the fans. It's for all of us that he called basketball bennies, that he acted like we didn't know what we were talking about, that we were crazy for saying Reed Shepherd was really good. We were crazy for saying on that COVID team Dante Allen should have played a little more. Like, all of it is just boiled over these last 5 years, and the ass-kicking Arkansas is going to take on Saturday is to show Cal that, you know what, this is still Kentucky, and it's bigger than him. It'll be bigger than when Mark Pope leaves, and we are still the brand, and he's not.
Yeah. Famously, he trademarked to Cal University. They were just moving south. How's that worked out? How's Cal University doing? I'm pretty sure they're 12-8, and Arkansas fans are just sitting there wondering, what is this buyout? What did we get ourselves into with John Calipari? They thought they were getting this Hall of Fame coach, like you mentioned, before COVID. I was right there on your side with this. I even looked it up, did some of the pre-COVID numbers versus, post-COVID. Pre-COVID, let's see, his overall record was 330-77. It's an 81% winning percentage.
Yep. Since
COVID, 80-46, a 63% winning percentage. So just in the regular season, an 18% difference. And let's talk about all of the postseason accolades pre-COVID. A Sweet 16, 3 Elite Eights, 3 Final Fours, and a national championship win. After COVID, 1 postseason win. 1 postseason win. And that was with
Providence.
And that was with, like you said, Player of the Year coming back. I mean, I just don't understand where this. It seems like everybody's just been like brainwashed to forget the last 5 years that he was here. And he took stabs at fans, at Kentucky media, anybody who was against him, not, fully in support, like Seth Greenberg. If you weren't Seth Greenberg for him, he just didn't like you. And I don't understand where all of this love and support, at least from the past 5 years, is coming. If it was just his run from 2009 to 2019, yes, one of the best coaches of all time. And even with his since COVID numbers, still one of the best coaches of all time. I mean, just look at the talent that's produced. 50 draft picks in the 15 years that he was here. But there's also something to be said. There's 1 national championship for 50 NBA draft picks. So I personally think even in the pre-COVID numbers, there were some years that, think about it, 14-15, that team should have won the national title. The John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins team, that team probably should have won the national title. There's an argument to be made that he underachieved in his time here. I don't understand why Saturday would be the day where you give him his flowers.
I think you definitely make the argument that he underachieved here. But, for me, it's also not just, the basketball stuff. Cal legitimately changed those last 5 years, not just not winning basketball games. His personality and, to your point, taking shots at the fan, going after local media and trying to get people fired because he didn't like what they were saying about him. And let's be real, it's not like any of them were super unfair. Nobody's coming after him and his character or, his family or wife. Everything is about, it was all basketball related. And he let that boil over into wanting to get people fired. It's absurd. But just from a basketball perspective, I don't care who it is. They're coaching Arkansas. Why are we when Ed Cooley leaves Providence to go to Georgetown, are those people going to be standing up and welcoming him back just because he had some of the best years at Providence? I feel like this is the only, it doesn't make sense. I don't get it when I'm looking at it on Twitter. This is the only person that's made a move to a rival where fans are like, well, you can't boo. You gotta be nice, and we should probably give him a standing now. It's mind-boggling. If Nick Saban left Bama to go to Auburn, they're not. All right, maybe, or not even Auburn. Let's just say to go to Georgia or Florida. They're not going to cheer that guy. It's absurd.
No, and it's Like maybe even, after, if he left after 2019, I would understand, maybe that 10-year run that he had. But just these 5 years have been they've been bad on the court, bad off the court. Like you mentioned, he changed just personally how he handled fans, calling fans names, basketball bennies, all the other stuff. Or he'd go to the post game press conferences if he actually showed up for them.
Yeah, I mean,
He'd go in
rare.
there and just be like, "Do you guys see what I did? Nope, you didn't see what I did. You guys don't know what I did." I mean, you know how many times I got tired of listening to him say stuff like that? It's like, dude, yes, Hall of Fame coach. You were great at UMass, great at Memphis, and you've been great at Kentucky. But I also, I'm going to say something here that most people aren't going to agree with. Post-COVID Cal, 63% winning percentage.
Bad.
The next closest to that, '07 to '09, Billy Gillispie, 60% winning percentage. Granted, Billy did a lot worse stuff off the court, strip clubs and all that other stuff. But just on the court, I mean, you're talking about a 3% winning percentage. One guy was fired after 2 years. The other guy, we gave him a 5-year sample size, making the most money in the NCAA. And we're supposed to beg and plead for him to stay and, have a warm reception back at Rupp Arena.
Yeah. And to that point, 2009 to 2015, definitively as good of a run as anybody's ever had here.
Absolutely.
4 Final Fours in 5 years, or 4 Final Fours in 6 years, excuse me. A national title, a runner-up, a 38-1 team that was the most dominant team I've seen in college basketball. And that run, maybe the best run this school's ever seen. It's there with, the 96 to 98. Those are the two. But to your point, the last 5 years, maybe in modern basketball if you take a full 5-year window, that might be the worst 5-year stretch. And so to your point, you have the best run in school history, possibly, with one of the worst, just over the course of a 15-year career. It's mind-blowing, and, I just don't understand we have to welcome him back with open arms this week.
Yeah, it can't happen. I'll tell you now. There could be 20,000 people either standing and clapping for him. I guarantee you'll at least hear my voice. If if that's all you hear is some guy from the nosebleeds, but you'll hear at least one of them. I mean, personally, he's just like, I've told you this, over the phone, throughout the years. I mean, he's zapped my love for Kentucky basketball the past couple of years. You knew what to expect year in, year out. Really, the last team outside of this one that I had like that emotional connection to was maybe the team with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and then maybe even right before then with De'Aaron Fox and Bam Adebayo in that team. And you think about that, it's the last teams that were good, that were personable. It was the last teams that treated this like it was Kentucky, like how all these guys like Ansley Almanor are doing this year, Otega Owe are doing, playing for the front of the chest rather than what's on the back. And it's so refreshing to see. And it's really, I think you saw it just with Pope's press conferences, that opening press conference he had. We didn't know if this was going to work. We obviously still can't say it's going to work. Right now we're 15-5 and we're exceeding expectations, but I'm not going to go out on a limb and say this is going to be a great hire or anything yet. But I mean, just seeing the receptive, nature of how Pope was welcomed back. I think you saw how many people and fans felt like they had their team back. And I tell you what, after that Duke game, that's probably the best I've felt watching a Kentucky basketball game since 2017, 2018.
Yeah, I agree completely. And the really frustrating part is like last year should have been that. You got a kid from, the 10th region playing on your team that ended up being the number 3 overall pick. And I mean, let's just be real. Cal took shots at him last year because all the fans were excited about him. And then he would go in the press conference. He was the only player on that team last year Cal would publicly call out. Like, the only one. And it was because he was the fan favorite. Like, that's absurd. Last year's team should have been how we felt. But he refused to adapt, and he refused to play the lineup that should have been played. To your point, the last 5 years, yeah, they've been miserable as a UK fan. I haven't enjoyed the last 5 years, and it's so disappointing because I've always been a UK fan. I grew up a UK fan. My mom and dad were UK fans. once you kind of hit middle school is where your fandom really like develops. You really understand basketball. I was in 7th grade when Cal was hired. That John Wall team will forever be probably my favorite UK team. I fell in love with UK over the top once Cal got here, and then he obviously interjected it and just had this fire that obviously the late years of Tubby and then 2 years of Gillespie you didn't see. And then just to see him lose that over the last 5 years was extremely disappointing, and it stunk.
Yeah, it really did. And, like you're saying there, I think I might have been in 5th grade at the time. And I just remember how much deep diving I used to do in like our shop classes. I'd get on the laptop, I'd be looking up the top 150 recruits and, watching. I couldn't tell you how many times I watched Nerlens Noel's highlight tape in high school. Like, that's how excited he had,
Yeah,
middle schoolers in Kentucky, even high schoolers about this team. And I
absolutely.
mean, just going from day to day life, growing up a little bit, people just don't talk about Kentucky basketball as much those last 5 years.
Yeah.
It wasn't what was bonding people. It kind of felt like it divided this fan base apart. There was you're pro Cal or you're not. And there was no like any sort of bonding of bridges. And man, if he would have been doing his Cal University here this year, I couldn't imagine what this fan base would be like right now.
Dude, this place would have been, I mean, it was already toxic. It would have been, I don't know. I can't even describe like what this would have been. Just think about it. I mean, look at how bad Arkansas is. That was our team with a 10 times tougher schedule. Like, what would our record be with that team? Like, I mean, they're 12-8 right now. Dude,
8,
we
12.
might have like 6 wins realistically. Like 6 to 8 wins. Yeah, it would have been brutal. But to your point, like the fan base got toxic over the last 5 years, and it was because of Cal kind of feeding into it as much as anything. You were either for him, 100% Seth Greenberg level, or nothing. You could not criticize him without people coming after you. You couldn't criticize him without him coming after you behind closed doors. Like it was just so toxic, and it's a shame. I cried after the John Wall West Virginia game. I was on spring break my senior year in 2015 when we lost to West Virginia. I was partying with all my buddies. 9 o'clock at night, I said, forget all you guys. I'm going to bed, and I did. It was the last night of our trip, and they were all thought I was crazy. Like this meant something to us. And then he almost turned that like almost like we cared too much. Like, Cal, the reason you got paid a ton of money is because of how much the UK fans cared. And because we cry after we we lose with our favorite teams, or we don't want to, hang out with our friends the night that they lose. Like, but like part of that is what you sign up for, but like it's also what made Cal. Like really took him to the next level was this place and these fans, and for him to almost just completely turn his back on all of that is incredibly disappointing.
Yeah, and he definitely just completely turned his back on us. And for those reasons, he's at Arkansas now, and he's coming
True.
in to try and beat Kentucky on Saturday. Just for that reason alone, you should boo. Let alone how you feel about his time here, his comments off the court, who he played, who he didn't, what rotations he did, whatever. I can't imagine somebody standing on their feet cheering for him on Saturday when he's trying to send you guys home unhappy with a loss.
Yeah, and again, we talk about it from Cal's perspective. Take basketball out of the equation. Let's say this is football. If Dane Key or I don't know, your typical fan favorite, let's say the transfer portal was here back when Benny Snell was here. Most beloved player I remember online, especially. Everybody loved Benny. Let's just say Benny Snell left to go to Florida or Georgia or wherever. When that guy came into Kroger Field the following year, we're not going to stand up and applaud him. Like, what are we talking about here? Just take everything else out of the equation. He is coming in here to try to beat us, to try to hand us a loss. If he really wanted to leave Kentucky, he didn't have to stay in the SEC. He didn't have to go to our biggest SEC rival outside of Tennessee. He chose this. Like, he he deserves to be booed, and Saturday should be for the fans to get their revenge for the last 5 years. It just should.
He also could have retired. He had a lifetime
Yep.
contract where he was going to be paid to be like a special advisor or whatever role he would have wanted. This university would have given him. He decided, oh no, I'm going to show UK and all the non-Calipari fans, as he would say, I'm going to show them what I can really do and take this Cal University south,
Yep.
and we're going to figure this out. And you'll understand this was all me. I don't know if Calipari realizes this or not. There were 7 national titles when he signed on.
Absolutely.
He only brought us 1 in 15 years. People were ready to run off Tubby Smith. He brought you 1 in 9. Rick Pitino brought you what? 1 in 6. I mean, if you think about it, outside of Adolph Rupp, the longest tenured coach, second on the all-time Kentucky wins, he's got a lot of accolades next to his name. He was also here for a long time to get a lot of those accolades.
Yep.
Again, at some point, I'll give him his flowers. It's not Saturday. It won't be for me, at least.
No, I don't think it'll be for majority of people. But like to that last point, this program is bigger than any one singular coach. You can argue after Rupp, Joe B. Hall being good was the most important thing to happen. Now that we have that sustainability over multiple coaches, again, if Pope doesn't work out, which I think he will, if he doesn't, we'll go find someone else. If in 10 years Pope's great and he leaves, guess what? When Pope's gone, the train's going to keep on rolling. If we make a bad hire like Billy Gillespie, fine. Get him out. Boom, we got the next John Calipari for, the best 5-year run in school history. Like, it's always going to exist, and it's never going to be bigger than one player. It's never going to be bigger than one coach. It's always going to be the name on the front of the jersey because of these fans. These fans, we're not Indiana. We're not going to check out and not care when our team's playing. Louisville, yeah. But, like, that's the difference here, is the fans. We live it, we breathe it, we die it. Just like Alabama football. Like, if the board doesn't work out, they're still going to be good because they're still going to care and they're going to go get somebody else, and the train's just going to keep on rolling.
To what you said, the fans are what makes this different. It's what makes it a harder job. It's just like Pope said when he came in, I want you guys to criticize me like you would anybody else, because once you stop doing that, this isn't the University of Kentucky, and it's not the gold standard that he's used to. Cal almost ran off that gold standard. Like I mentioned, his post-COVID numbers rival Billy Gillespie's 2 years. And you were talking about that potentially being one of the worst hires in Kentucky history.
Yeah.
I mean, you could look at it and say that 5-year Calipari span's right up there with it. 1 tournament win in 5 seasons for the University of Kentucky is abysmal. And obviously, we don't know how this postseason run's going to work with Pope. We've mentioned this team could probably beat anybody, but could also lose to almost anybody as well. And obviously with Pope not having that tournament win yet, obviously there's a lot that feeds into that. Just trying to touch base. What are we feeling, Pope versus Calipari on Saturday? Kind of dive into the specifics of this game now that we've laid out all the John Calipari talk.
Yeah. Real quick, I do want to backtrack one, just briefly. I know I do this too much, but it's on my brain. The standard over the last 5 years, it's so crazy that Cal defended it the way he did. In his own book, he said that it's not acceptable, right? Like, he talked about what Tubby did and what Gillespie did and said it's not acceptable there to have 1 tournament win in however many years, and then he does it and makes us all feel like we're crazy for pointing out that it's not acceptable. Like, Cal wrote that in his own book. So I just want to throw it out there.
Maybe you should have listened to Joe B. Hall when he said this is a 10-year job.
Absolutely.
If he would have quit right after that 10-year job, that was right before the COVID cancellation of the tournament. And
if he went to UCLA, our memories of him would have been amazing. I mean, Barnhart may not have survived because the fans might have thrown him out, but it would have been hindsight. Obviously, it's 2020, but that would have been the perfect time for him to actually go. As far as Saturday, I just think Pope. I think Kentucky's gonna roll. We were talking yesterday, what we kind of thought the line would be. I said I expected to be like just under 15, probably 14, 14 and a half. You had it right at what, 12 and a half?
Yeah, a little bit
I,
over.
I mean, Arkansas can't score. Their only hope of kind of keeping it close is just if Adu can go crazy, which, I mean, he can, but again, like, it's not like Cal's team's going to be super physical with us and, bang us around. And like, I just think we're just going to get out, play our offense. And even if we can't stop Adu, we could still win this game, 95-70. I think Pope's been miles better in game just from what we've seen this year. And I think Cal, I think almost this is going to be one of those games where Cal's almost going to be too emotional. We've seen it in the tournament the last few years. Players have talked about it. He's just too tight. I could totally see him coming into Rupp and wanting to win so bad that he's tight and screaming at his players the entire time.
All right, so I have one question for you. Does Chin Coleman pick up the tablet and watch film for this game?
Christ. No chance. No chance. I got a better chance of playing in the NBA than Chin Coleman does watching game film. That guy, you knew how to push the buttons, Cam. You knew how to push the buttons. There is not a bigger joke in college basketball than Chin Coleman and Brad Calipari being on a Division I staff. It is absurdity. Not only that, they survive. Chin Coleman survives being here the last few years and being. Oh my! All right. I'll move on, but no, Chin Coleman will not watch tape for this game. Chin Coleman may not even know. He probably thinks he's probably game planning for Lamont Butler and Andrew Carr still, and going to be ready to go. So
Chin Coleman, that might be a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
In the offseason. Dive into.
He'll ask Cal how many Antonio Reeves is averaging for Kentucky this year, and yeah.
They keep Reed. How's Reed doing?
Yeah. How's Reed doing, Cal?
Yeah, I can't wait to see. I mean, first off, being in the building, it's going to be just going to have a feeling. I mean, we watched some of those clips of Patino returning with Louisville. You can feel like the tension in the air. I can't wait to be able to experience that on Saturday. But when it comes to the game, I'm with you here.
Well, that's probably not a good sign then. That probably means
that's really where I'm worried at right now. Is that every time that we think this is a game that they should win, should roll. I mean, this is maybe like the second worst team in the SEC outside of LSU. I mean, even LSU starting to turn it around a little bit.
I think that's I think you can make an argument it's the worst.
That's especially without Boogie Fland. I mean, just in general, leave all of the Calipari coming back to Rupp aside. Kentucky needs this win just because it's a bad team that you're playing, and you're playing them at home. Yep. We talked about how there are no easy SEC games this year. This is one of your easiest. You've got to take care of business. Bad thing is, in those games where we have to take care of business so far this year, we really haven't. Vanderbilt, Georgia, Ohio State, those teams that you looked at that on paper, Cats should win. We haven't yet. And that's why I am a little scared for this game just because of that reasoning. And not that they will watch film or pay attention to what's going on, but this Arkansas staff did have a full week to game plan and prep for Saturday.
Dude, you could give them a month. They're not game planning. They're prepping. Just think about the fact that you replaced the best analytical basketball guy you've had since Robick and John Welch with Brad Calipari. Welch, and let's also point out, Welch left before Cal left to go to Arkansas. He did 1 year here and was like, I can't function in this. I'm going to coach at San Francisco. This is a joke. And so I don't care. You can give them months to game plan. It's not going to matter. Cal's going to go into the locker room. He's going to be like, you hear that out there? They don't believe in us. They ran me out of town, this and that. He's going to slap the whiteboard and say fight. And that's going to be his game plan. And I'm right. That is what's going to happen. And
the only thing I can see is I think Cal is going to try and make this personal with Adu, with DJ.
He might.
in Big Z. I know he's going to. That's how Calipari's going to try and, plug into the equation to win this game. He's going to try and say, hey, man, these guys, they wanted you gone too. He's going to try and play that with Z, with Adu, and especially DJ. Because obviously DJ was supposed to be the guy. He's the reason Reed and Rob weren't playing as much as they should have. He's going to try and tap into that. All the bulletin board material that Calipari can find to give those three guys. They're going to know it front to back. Even guys like Carter Knox and Billy Richmond who are planning on coming to Kentucky. Everyone on that team is going to know what's going on. That's the only slight bit that I'm worried about is that this means more for those guys than it does for us.
I mean, I agree to an extent, but like at the same time, like that only gets you so far. I mean, I can go out and want to beat up Mike Tyson in a fight. That doesn't mean I'm going to.
Well, no, if you saw him running out.
That's true. All right. But the other part of it is like, this is gonna be the best environment we've had in Rupp in a long, like, up there with any of them. So like, it's not like our guys are gonna need to find their juice from somewhere. Like, it's gonna be there. Our guys are gonna be fired up. Pope's gonna have them fired up. Pope, he's gonna come out and say all the coach speak stuff, but Pope knows what this means to the fan base. Just like when Pope's talking about the SEC tournament being important, beating Duke in the Champions Classic's important. It's not just about March. Like, there's a lot of meaningful stuff for Kentucky fans. Pope knows this one's important to us. And
like Coach Pope said, I mean, he said it in some of his pressers, even when he was at BYU, he's still checking in on the Cats, seeing how the Cats are playing. So that he saw the drop-off post-COVID and that the gold standard wasn't being reached. He saw that. He was just as much angry about it as you and I were.
Yeah, and Pope's connected with the fans, so like he knows how we feel about this game. He knows how big of a deal this is for us. He's not going to tell us don't worry about it like Cal did with the Louisville SEC tournament and all those. Like, Pope gets it. He's going to have them ready to go on Saturday. And for as much bulletin material Arkansas has, Pope's going to find a way to create that with our guys.
I hope so. Like I said, that's the only way I even see this game being close. Do you think at some point Cal does what he used to early in the Kentucky days, like maybe 15-19, where his team would be getting beat, so he just gets that phantom tee to try and get the boys a little riled? You think we see that? Because then if he does that, guess what? He doesn't have to do media stuff after the game. Doesn't have to answer all those questions.
Is he going to do it anyway? I guess for this one, Tyson Chicken may hold him at gunpoint and force him out there after this one. But no, I don't think he's going to want to get kicked out, because if by chance they do find a way to win this, he's going to want to be there to gloat every step of the way. So I can't imagine he gets kicked out and lets Kenny Payne take over.
I love Kenny Payne. But going back to this, Kenny Payne left Kentucky, came back with Louisville.
Yeah, I have no love for Kenny Payne.
He didn't have a warm reception when he came back. He was a part of just as many of those teams as Calipari was.
I have no love for Kenny Payne. When he was at the Knicks, that was fine. You went to the NBA, you were doing your own thing, it was cool. I applauded him from a distance from there. But again, just like Rick, as soon as you come back and you put on one of in that case, our biggest rivals, jacket over there, you're no longer one of us. You're just not. You're not us anymore. And Cal at this moment is not one of us. In 10 years, he might be. It's not Saturday.
Couldn't agree with you more. Let's go ahead. I think we've wrapped up all the Cal talk, all the bulletin board material for Saturday. I'll be in attendance. I know I've said that like 5 times already, but I'm going to keep saying it. I'll be there. Plenty of content. Let's get into game picks, score predictions, and MVPs. What do you got for me?
Can you just put Cats a billion, Arkansas not enough? No, I'll give a real score for you. I'll say, Arkansas is not very good defensively, and they like to play a little faster. So I'll say we score 94. I'll go 94-68. I think we roll them. I don't care what the spread is. I'm taking the Cats.
Well, I do want to tell you something because I know this is going to alarm you a little bit. I did get Tyler's
Oh my God,
pick
I don't
before
want
the
to know.
game. He was 94 to 72, so you guys are right there within striking distance of each other.
All right, change mine.
I don't know if you want to change yours now
Yeah,
that you know.
I went 96-66. Cats by 30.
I got you in there for it. All right, I'm going to say we don't score as well. They do have length that I think might give us a little bit of a problem, especially, not knowing who all is still active, ready to go, how much Carr could play, all of the question marks that are still out there as we're recording on Thursday. I'm going to go 88 to 74. The Cats win this one. Obviously, we give up points no matter who we're playing. I think they'll find their way to get theirs. I expect Adu to have 20 plus at a minimum. Even then, I still think the Cats win by double digits. Give me your MVP pick for this game.
Yeah, I could see Adu going off. I'll take. We've never picked him, or maybe you have a time or two. I know I've never picked him, and he's just been so steady these last few games. Give me Ansley, man. Fours always killed us when Cal was here. He's gonna find a way to creep into the corner, and I'm gonna predict he goes 5 of 6 from behind the arc and scores a career high or season high at least, and has 18 to 20.
I love it. As a Ansley fan, I would love it. Obviously, fan of everybody on this team. I do want to say something. It doesn't carry as much weight now that the regime's not there from when he was there. Jackson Robinson did play at Arkansas. He was there. I mean, when they brought that up during media days at the SEC, he didn't have anything to say. You could tell he was holding his tongue. He has a little animosity for Fayetteville and those Arkansas fans, whether he won't say it or not. And you've seen what Jackson does when he does have a little bit of animosity. Look at him with Buzz Williams and Texas A&M. You saw the fire pointing at him after drilling a 3 right in his face. I think Jackson Robinson scores 25 plus in this game.
Love it.
I think he looks at DJ Wagner and says, "You can't guard me. You should have never played."
Yeah. Cal ain't gonna be able to hide DJ on Saturday when Jackson's going after him. So I love it.
All right, guys, you've got our take on the boo. We're both pro boo. We're both think Cats are going to roll in this game. Hopefully, that's not the jinx that it kind of has been as of late. Really hoping not. Stay tuned with us. Giving away a team signed basketball here soon. We'll let you know on the details. Follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. Get the podcast on Spotify, YouTube. If you're listening to us, share us with another Kentucky fan. Let us know in the comments if they're pro boo, pro cheer, whatever you got for us. Cats need a big win on Saturday. Let's beat Coach Cal.
Cats by 90, baby.
Go Big Blue.